Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. Today I'm here to do part 2 for my May wrap up, and I think this shouldn't be too long of a video because I didn't read as much as I did during the first half of the month, and pretty much as a whole for all of May I didn't read as much as I have for the previous few months, which is mostly because I was reading a book for review and I got kind of caught up on it, and it kind of hindered my reading for like a week and a half, and that could be a significant amount of reading for me with audiobooks and like manga and stuff like that. So that had a huge impact on my reading, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but I kind of feel like I wasted time on one book when I normally would have just put it down, but I had it for review, so I felt like I had to continue reading it, which I will talk more about a little bit later. But before I get into the actual books for the month, I am going to go over stats for my reading for the entire month of May. So like I said, for May I read a total of 19 books. My page count was 6,274 pages, and then my average rating for the month was 3.54 stars. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this in previous videos or not, but whenever I have a reread, one that I have already previously rated on Goodreads, so I think the last 5 years or so I have been rating books on Goodreads, those I don't count towards my average rating. And now I'm going to move into the books that I read during the second half of May. So I only ended up rereading one book during this time period, and that was Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. I decided to reread this one because my audiobook hold came in, or it wasn't super long when I requested the hold for the second book, which is the finale in this duology. So I figured I would just go ahead and reread this one because I had access to the audiobook. In this book, Earth is dying, and the scientists, they intercept this message from this alien race, and the alien race is known as the Undying, and they came from, and they lived on this planet known as Gaia. And this message basically says that because of all the greed and power that this alien race had, they destroyed themselves, but they left behind this technology that could possibly help Earth in restoring its environmental problems that it's been having, or help with the environmental problems that it's been having. The government or the scientists, or maybe a mix of both, are desperate to get to Gaia and figure out what this tech is, how to bring it back, and do their best to bring it back. And in the story we're following two characters, Jules and Mia, and they're both on Gaia at the beginning of the story for two different reasons. So Jules is a scholar. His father is actually the one who decoded the message, but as he learned more and more, or as he decoded more and more about this message, he starts to realize that everything is not as it seems, and there seems to be some hidden message about there being danger to anyone who goes to seek this technology that was said in this message that was left that they could use. So because of this, Jules has made his way to Gaia, partly to learn more about the planet, also partly to possibly help prove his father right, to show that he isn't actually crazy, he hasn't had a mental break or anything. And then Mia, on the other hand, she is actually a scavenger, and she has made her way to Gaia illegally, or well, I guess they're both technically there illegally because no one has had permission to actually go there. But anyway, she has stowed away on a ship. She was hired to be stowed away on a ship to go to Gaia to steal this technology, but she's going there in order to get enough tech to be able to trade off her money. The description that's on the dust jacket doesn't say exactly why she's trying to get this technology, so I won't really go into that, but she has her own reasons for being on Gaia. After encountering each other in this near-death experience almost, the two of them agree to work together to achieve their own goals. Like I said, they agree to work together, but as they're going along and learning more about this alien race, they're realizing that everything is not as it seems. So I read this one last year. It did come out in the US at least last year, and I really enjoyed it. it was a weird sensation because it was kind of slow for the majority of the book as it was building up to more and more about what was going on, but the last little section really like took it over the hill for me, and I was just like, okay, I need to keep reading to find out what's going on. I don't know how to best explain this without going into too many details, but I will say this one is more so like it takes a little bit to get into the process, and because this is one of those books that has long chapters, it is a little bit of a slog to get through at points, especially because we don't know all the details about everything. We do learn as we go along, but there's so much to learn that sometimes it's just like too much, or at least that's how I felt while I was reading it. And I kind of felt the same way the second time around when I read it. However, this time I did have the audiobook, so it was a little bit easier for me to get through that part, which is part of the reason why I decided to pick up the audiobook this time around for my reread. I enjoyed this one. It wasn't like my favorite thing. I think I initially gave it 3.5 stars. Probably would have got it 3, but like I said, the ending part really like kicked it up another notch for me, and I enjoyed it my second time around as well. I actually just started listening to the audiobook for the second one, and I think I'm about 50% of the way through at least, because I got through like a good chunk of it while I was listening to it, and I feel like the stakes are a lot higher in that one than it was in this one, even though they were on an alien planet in this one. So like it's weird. I just feel like, I guess, not that the stakes are higher, but that is a little bit more exciting than this first book was. But I did really still enjoy this, and I think overall this is going to be a pretty good series for me. But obviously I will let you guys know more about the second book in my June wrap up part 1. Alright, so now we are getting into all of the books that I read for the first time. As always, in this section I will be talking about the books in order from my least favorite to my most favorite. So let's just get started with the least favorite for the second half of the month, and that is Liliom by Claire Delicia. I will start off by saying that I did receive this book for review from the publisher, and I do have a separate review video filmed. I have not edited that yet at the point that I'm filming this, but my plan is to get it edited. Hopefully we'll have it up either Wednesday or Thursday. I want to get it up in between this video and my Friday video, just so I can have it up, because the plan was to put it up last week, but I didn't get that done. I plan on having a full review for this one, so I won't talk too many details about this one just because I do have that coming up. Anyway, this book is a YA fantasy romance following this character named Oriana. She's living in this world with this pretty clear divide between these people. So we have what's known as the untouchables and the outcasts. So the untouchables are the really rich people, the really privileged, entitled people of the world. The outcasts are pretty much the opposite, the people who are really poor. They don't have anything. They're pretty oppressed and everything, and Oriana belongs to the outcast people. After one of the untouchables chooses Oriana to be his wife, she is stuck with figuring out why he has chosen her, and in the process of trying to figure this out, she gets to leave this island that she has been born and raised on and go explore different parts of the world and meet all of these new people and see more about their part of the world, and maybe how things aren't exactly as she thought they were. I mentioned that this is also a fantasy. I believe there's like touches of magic and other things in here, but that's part of the reason why I only gave this 1 star. I'm not exactly sure if I said that already, but if I didn't, I gave this one 1 star. My main issue with this book is that it did not give me what it advertised. According to the back of the book, there was supposed to be an exploration of magic and this magical dagger, and our main character Oriana learning more about herself and using the power that she gains from herself to help her people. And I feel like that was never done. There was a lot of mention of things that I felt like were never explained. That was another big thing with this book. I felt like the author was writing as if you knew every little nuance of her thinking about the world, and being a reader from what I was solely given from this, no other information, there was a lot that I didn't understand. I felt like it could have used a little bit more editing because there were passages that weren't, like, it didn't flow well. The romance was a big part of the story, and I was not a fan of the romance at all. I think in my review video I give examples, but like I said, I haven't edited that yet. But to sum it up, this just was not the book for me. And this was a book that I was talking about. I did have it for a review, and I kind of forced myself to finish it because I was curious if things would get better, if things would be explained more towards the end, and it wasn't. And I don't know if this is supposed to be a part of a sequel or not, because it's like on the last page it says the end, so that makes me think that there's nothing after this, but I'm not completely sure. Basically what I said, for what the book was advertised to be, it did not deliver on that, and because of that, I couldn't enjoy it. The next one that I have to talk about is Interment by Samira Ahmed. I was supposed to read this a couple months ago, and I'm just not getting to it, so that sucks. But I finally got to it. I ended up picking up the audiobook for this one as well. This is set in the near future United States, and it's following a character named Layla Amin. So when the story opens up, a new president has recently been elected, and this president is pretty, like, openly prejudiced against Muslim Americans, and as a result of this, a lot of discrimination has been coming up, and a lot of Muslim Americans have been banned from doing certain things, or they have been taken from different positions that they have been in. We see a little bit from Layla's perspective. Her father, who was a professor, he lost his job. They randomly said that he was now unqualified for the job after he had been there for, I think, 10 years or more than that. And her mother also stopped receiving her normal clients at her business. At the very start, we're following Layla as she's off to go do something she has no business doing, of course. And she mentions how all of these people are going to burn her father's books because he's a poet, and they don't want to be seen with any type of encouragement towards that. But not long into the story, we see that Layla and her family are rounded up and taken off to go live in an internment camp. And while there, Layla meets some people there, and her friends pretty much try to figure out ways to be released from this internment camp, or really not just released, but have it shut down and have everyone be able to go back to their normal lives. So with this book, I was a little wary about going into it because I had seen pretty, like, average to negative reviews across the board from pretty much everyone that I have seen that read this. So I wasn't really sure what to think, which is part of the reason why I think I put it off for so long, because I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy that, and I don't want to, like, I feel really bad giving negative reviews when I don't like a book, which is part of the reason why I had such a hard time, like, trying to give up on this. I will say that I feel like I don't think I disliked it as much as everyone else, and that's probably because I did listen to the audiobook. I did have some issues with this book though. I felt like the main character, Layla, I get she's a teenager, but she did a lot of things without thinking about them and trying to think of the best way to go about them. Like, even from the start, they had this enforced curfew, and she knew it's like extreme punishment if they missed this curfew, and she was just like out in the middle of curfew. Then she, like, on the way to this internment camp, she literally just, like, goes off, just says anything that comes to her mind as soon as she thinks it, not thinking about the consequences. And her parents keep telling her, like, look, I get you're upset, I get you're angry, but at the same time, you have to realize we're not in a position of power here. There are so many things that can go wrong, and you're not thinking about those things. And they keep telling her, and I think she's like 17 in this book, and like, she keeps doing these things over and over. Like, so anybody would say something to her, and then she was just like, first thing that pops in her mind, she just automatically spouts it out. I had a problem with that, and she did not change. Like, she was like that the entire book. And it seemed, like I said, it seemed like everyone else had the most dire consequences or punishments as a result of things that happened, but she kind of just got like a slap on the wrist, or people were telling her, like, don't do that. you're gonna get us all killed, basically. And she was kind of just like, well, I don't care, we need to fight back. And I was just like, yes, you need to fight back, but be smart about it. I think that was my biggest gripe with this book. But I think this one was just okay execution wise, and I only gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. The next one that I have to talk about is Spell of Desire Volume 2, and I gave this one 3 stars. This follows a character named Karuko. I don't know if I'm saying that right, so we're just gonna say that up front. Back in Volume 1, she finds out that her grandmother and her mother are both witches. Her grandmother was a really well-known white witch, and her mother is a black witch, and she's like the queen of the black witches, I believe. Something has happened with her mother. She has like gone into hiding or something. They haven't fully explained that, but her mother has somehow sent her powers into her. And this guy named Kaname, he comes there to protect her and the Witch Queen's powers. Throughout the majority of the first volume, she's trying to learn how to control this magic so it doesn't get out of control, but it does get out of control a lot. And to help rein it back in, he kisses her to kind of redirect it. So in this one, we're kind of following along with that. Kuroko is continuing to struggle with this power, but she is slowly starting to learn how to manage it a little bit when it gets out of control. And she's doing this because she realizes that she's attracted to Kaname on more than just a physical thing, because they're like making out like every other chapter. So she's just like, I really need to like draw back from that. Kuroko is doing whatever she can in order to not have to rely on him as much. And Kaname, on the other hand, he is dealing with his own issues. He's realizing that maybe it's not just the Witch Queen's powers that are manifesting in Kuroko, and he's really trying to figure out a way to help like keep the powers in and not have the Black Witch Coven be aware of what's going on. So he decides to leave to go do some research. He ends up being gone longer than I think planned or something, and her powers end up getting out of control because she's thinking about him, and he ends up having to rush back. And because of some things that happened with that whole situation, the Black Witches end up finding out about the powers being inside of her, and they're just like, well, we need to be in possession of her while she has these powers. And there's a whole situation with that, and he realizes that he is not only wanting to protect the Witch Queen's powers, but he also wants to protect Kuroko. I do plan on reading volume 3 of this one probably today after I'm done filming, just because my loan from the library expires I think tomorrow, so I just want to get that done. I think this one takes me under an hour to read because there's not a whole lot going on. Like I said, in this one they're just making out a lot. I feel like half of the storyline is them making out to help bring in the powers. So this one, I enjoy it. I think this is just gonna be like an overall average series for me. It's interesting reading an adult manga series that has magic in it, but I feel like it's really kind of focusing on the romance with a little hint of magic in the background. I wish we had a little bit more of the magic, but like I said, it's okay. It's just an average story for me overall right now. Moving on to the next one, we have Guilty Pleasures by Laurel K. Hamilton, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. This was the Wicked Spirits Book Club pick for May. This book is following Anita Blake, who, as a day job, she reanimates the dead, and she also occasionally kills vampires who are like going over the edge. In this world, vampires are known about in the world, and she works with the police. So if vampires like come up on a police hit list, and she like goes out and kills them. At the start of the story, she gets this proposition to work for vampires to find out something, but she's just like, I don't work with vampires. But then because of some unforeseen circumstances, she ends up forced to meet with the most powerful vampire in the city, and this vampire forces her to find out what is killing vampires in this city. So she doesn't want to, but because of the things that happen, she's just like, I really have no choice. I'm being really vague about this, but I feel like there wasn't a whole lot extra going on, so in order to not spoil anything, I think it's best to just not talk too much about it until you have read it. There's also the possible start of a romance with the vampire, which is kind of strange because she just like at the beginning of this, she's just like no go for vampires at all. I don't know if I said this already. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it. I feel like as I'm reading more urban fantasy and paranormal romance series, the first book is pretty much like a setup. These type of series I feel like are they seem like they're meant to be longer series, and because of that there isn't too much going on. I feel like there's going to be a lot going on in the background, and we just get like a small plot to start the story off and get to know a little bit more about the characters. So I enjoyed this, but I feel like it's not the strongest that the series is going to get. So I'm interested to see more about the series, like read more of the series and see where it goes. And with that being said, I will stop talking about this here just because we will be discussing this in a live show for the Wicked Spirits Book Club on it's going to be happening this weekend on June 9th, and it will be happening over at Lauren from the Novel Luscious channel. So if you have read this, or if you're interested in reading it before the 9th and want to come discuss with us, please do. I will leave any links that you need down below. Alright, the second to last book that I have to talk about is Lake Silence by Anne Bishop. This is the first book in the spin-off of the Other series, and this one is part of the World of the Other series. This book takes place in a small town near Lakeside, and it's taking place not too long after the elders cleansed parts of the world in the Other series. So if you've read that, and I think that was in book 4 when the elders kind of came around and they just kind of wiped the board clean of all the people that they knew was messing up. It takes place not too long after that. As with these books, we're following a few different characters, but the main focus I feel like is this character named Vicky Devine. She has gotten divorced and she has settled into this small town, and as part of her divorce settlement she received the rights to this property. It's like they call it a rustic resort in the description, but she has gone there to get away from her husband, and she has been using the money that she received also as part of her divorce settlement to help update these cabins and renovate things that need to be renovated, or as much as she can so far. Things start to change when one of her residents or lodgers discovers a dead body. So she doesn't at first realize, I don't think, that one of the others is actually one of her lodgers, but when she catches her in the house trying to warm up an eyeball in a wave cooker, you know, she quickly finds out kind of what's going on with this one girl. Because of this body being found, a lot of stuff ends up happening. It's just a lot going on. I don't even want to get into it because I feel like this is one of those things that it's best just to read it, because it's like really complicated and things unfold as you go, and it just gets more and more interesting. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I was a little hesitant with starting this because I knew I wasn't following the cast of characters that I had got to know in the Other series, and I was really disappointed about that, because as much as I felt like things were wrapped up, I felt like there was things that could have still been explored with those characters. So it took me a while to get used to it, because I was just like, I don't care. I just want Meg and Simon and everyone else that's with them, and that's all I want. But as we started getting more and more into what was actually going on, I became a lot more invested, and I ended up falling in love. And I think just the world and the way everything always comes together, and how these others, even though they're just like, no, humans are dumb, like we only like them because they bring certain things that we enjoy, that's the only reason we tolerate them. But then we see them come and be protective of these humans, or these specific humans. I fell in love once again, and I can't wait to read the second one in this one, which I think is called Wild Country. I did kind of appreciate that we got to see a little bit of a mention of our characters that we've had from previous series, but they weren't actually on the page, and I was a little upset. I was like, maybe they'll get an appearance, maybe they'll like come to Lake Silence for whatever reason, but they didn't do that. So That was a little upsetting, but it's okay. I still loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I didn't give it a full 5 stars because, like I said, it did take me a while to get into it. That could have just been me being stubborn. And the final book that I have to talk about that I read in May was Mating the Huntress by Talia Hibbert. This is actually a novella, and in this story, or in this world, all of the women in the Adolfo family are trained to be werewolf hunters. However, we're following this character named Chastity, and although she was trained along with her sisters, on the day that she was born, this oracle made their way up to the hospital and basically said that the first wrong book, the first werewolf that she kills is gonna like tear her heart or something like that. So her parents pretty much forbid her from actually hunting, even though she has the training. So she's working in this cafe because that's really all she has to do, and lo and behold, this werewolf like strolls in and he's trying to interact with her, and she is determined that this werewolf is going to be her first kill. She doesn't really believe in this prophecy or whatever that this oracle said when she was born. She's just like, I'm going to kill this werewolf and I'm going to prove them wrong and show them that I can be a werewolf hunter. However, she does not realize that he's there to like hunt her, like try to kill her, but he wants something else from her. If you can't tell, because I'm talking about this last, this is my favorite book, novella, whatever, of the month. I gave this one 5 stars. This was so freaking amazing. I already love Talia Hibbert, and I've only read like 2 books from her. I plan on going and reading her backlist, this was one of her backlists, but I picked this one up because it was a novella and I wanted something quick and steamy and fun. This is one of the few times where I felt so invested just from a novella. I think this one was under 150 pages, and she just managed to put so much of everything into this. So we get the family relationships, we get the relationship between the main character and the werewolf that she meets is actually told in dual perspective, so we get his perspective as well as hers, and we get to see the two of them and how they interact, and like her actually trying to kill him and how that actually kind of gets him off, that she's strong enough to fight him. And I just like, I don't have too many words to say. I just know that I absolutely love this. The only downside with this one was that I wish that it was longer and that we got to see more of the things that were hinted at but weren't in the, like, it wasn't in the actual novella. However, if you guys can wait, I might suggest waiting to pick this up if you're interested, just because Talia Hibbert, I don't know if she announced it everywhere, but I'm a part of her Facebook group, and she did announce that she's taking this novella and turning it into a full-length novel. So she's going to be taking the idea and maybe parts of what's already there and expanding and updating it into a full-length novel. And she's also turning this into a series, which I was hoping for when I read this, even if it was just a novella series, because one of her sisters kind of hints at something, and I was just like, I would love to see that as well, because that would be amazing. And I just loved it so much. It was so good, and I can't wait for that full-length novel. So if you can't wait, I would say pick it up. Just know, like I said, that she does plan on taking this central idea and making it into a full-length novel / series. Those are all the books that I had to talk about in part 2 of my May wrap-up. If you have read any of these books, let me know which ones and what you thought about them. And if not, let me know if any of these books that I talked about in this video have interested you, and if you plan on picking them up, because I would be interested to know. But that's everything that I have in this video. If you like to, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you check out my videos if I get that other video up this week as well, later this week, and I will see you then. Bye.